So welcome to the This Works Marketing webinar series. And today we're going to talk about how to choose the right talent, the right representation for you and your business that connects with your customer. And my guest today is Patricia Stark. And not only is she a friend of mine, and we've worked a lot together, Patricia is, she's a communications expert. She does public speaking. She's a public speaking coach, media trainer, executive coach, has been on Fox television. You've been everywhere. You're a health and wellness expert. Well, you do everything. But most importantly, most importantly, I just want to say that Patricia is one of the best on-camera talent experts I've ever worked with in 35 years in this business. So it's my pleasure to have you on the webinar series, and I'm looking forward to this. How are you today?
Well, that's a heck of an introduction, and thank you so much for those wonderful comments. I'm doing great. I'm doing even better now, because that was just really wonderful. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So, so let's talk about a little bit of what our audience is going to get out of this when they chime in, because I like to talk about that up front so they can know what we're going to get into. And we're going to talk about how you prepare for doing a direct-to-consumer campaign, and we'll discuss a little bit of how we do that together. Where you see the value you can add to CMOs, CEOs who are trying to do a direct-to-consumer campaign, and how talent aligns with them, and how do they and tips and strategies and things that you've seen happen that could probably streamline things better and make them understand they're making the right decision with the right people. And then, probably the last thing is, what are the potential pitfalls that executives can fall into by making decisions when it comes to having talent represent their company and their brand, and how that communicates to their customers. So we're going to talk about that today, Patricia. So people have got a little context. Let's get into the first thing. Let's get into the first thing about, what insights can you give a CEO or a CMO or a decision maker at a brand when it comes to hiring a spokesperson and to represent their brand, to communicate to their customers? You've been doing that all your life, most of your professional life. What do they need to be looking for from your perspective?
I think first and foremost, someone who genuinely is interested in the product would be the person that would be benefiting and using the product. If they were the person sitting at home watching direct to consumer, that they'd be like, yeah, this has my name on it. For me, I never want to feel just like the hired hand. That's kind of just there representing and not be fully part of what this brand is and what this product is. So I want it to always be something that I feel resonates with me, and I've turned some down. I one time had a brand reach out, and it had something to do with astrology. And I was just like, that just doesn't fit with who I am and what my goals are as a person. And I didn't feel I could be authentic with it. If the paycheck would have been nice, but I didn't want to just do it for the sake of that. So I think it's really important, when you work with on-camera talent, depending on who it is, many times they really need the paycheck, and they will say yes to anything. And you want to make sure you're not getting yourself into that kind of a situation.
How do you try to find that out? What tips would you give somebody who's making that decision to try to find out if they're falling into that trap?
I think that I would really want to, do my homework on, who they are, what is their family life like, what do they do for work, interview them about the product. Have they ever used it before? Have they used similar products? Why do they feel that they would benefit from the product? If I send home samples to them, like I will always ask when I get engaged with a venture like this, I'll be like, can you send me the stuff? Can I live with it? Can I work with it? Can I make sure that, when I'm reading these lines, I don't feel like, only I'm telling a half truth because I don't believe what I'm saying. So I really want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to be fully engulfed so that when I get out there, I am a true representative of the brand and of that product through and through.
I think that's a great suggestion. And we, as the strategy company or the company that's putting together the campaign, where we make a recommendation to work with someone like yourself, we want that too. And we know that if we are looking at potential people and we say we want to send you something, we want to get your feeling from it, and if there's any pushback, we're done. We're done. We don't go any further. And
I think it's also smart that once someone does get the products and starts to use them, that they record themselves on even their cell phone talking about how they feel about them and how they what the results they've had, or just so that you can hear, are they sounding like a pitch person? Are they sounding like they're trying to lay it on really thick and be real salesy? Or are they coming across real authentic, really passionate and enthusiastic about this because this is something they would end up using or not, whether they got the job or not?
That's a great suggestion, Patricia. I want to repeat that because I just want everybody to hear that if you're considering a talent to represent your brand that's ultimately going to represent who your brand is to the customer, let that person live with the product and let them videotape themselves about what it's meant to them. And you can really tell whether that's authentic or not, or whether that's a great suggestion. Thank you for that one. I think so many people just don't go to that step because maybe they don't think of it, or they think somebody else is thinking it for them. And I don't think you should be that assumptive, right?
Yeah. And, because for me, as an on-camera talent, it's not just about the brand and the product. That's my image and likeness out there too. That's me as a brand of who I want people to see me as. And I want to make sure that I'm at my best in front of the camera, being real, being authentic, not sounding cheesy, not sounding like I'm just reading canned scripted lines. And when you really believe in a product and you're passionate about it and you use it, that's where all of those organic, off the cuff little nuances can be added in around the script while we're filming that are really real, based on experience, that make a script not sound like it's a script.
Right. I'm glad you went there because I was going to go there myself, because I just want to say, everybody who's listening, Patricia's being very modest because I know she digs into these products that we engage her with, because when we get to a table read, and what Patricia's talking about is let them give input. When we get to a table read on a script, you always have input about how I used it, or what it would be better if I said it this way because I know it works that way. And that is absolutely, it's gold. I mean, you just can't put a price on that ability, because how many times have we been on a table read and you've made a suggestion, we're like, oh, and we adapt it towards your experience, because not only was it authentic to you, then people know that you're not trying to sell them something you don't believe in.
Absolutely. And then by the time we get out there to actually do the taping, it feels so much more conversational, so much more relaxed, so much more of your comfort zone, because it's real.
Yeah. I got to tell you, one of the frustrations that I have as a director or an executive producer is we say, and I have to say to the talent, be authentic. If the director has to say be authentic, you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
I never have to say that with you. I just back off and let you do your thing.
Well, I appreciate that. And it also helps that we've been working together for a long time and we had that comfort level and things like that. But I think the other thing that I would add to that is just to be conscious of, who you're picking when you are, because sometimes when, and I'm not poo-pooing anybody, and obviously it's not a one size fits all,
Sure.
but sometimes I've heard producers and directors say that when they've hired an actress or an actor, that they come across like they're acting, or when they've hired a broadcaster, the broadcaster can't get away from that broadcastery type of sound and feel. And
Right.
in my earlier parts of my career, sometimes I would get those notes and I would be told, be less broadcastery, because that was the ground. And I made sure to really take that to heart and do what I had to do to take that hat off and be my real, my mom, my girlfriend
Right.
next door, and my wife, wear those hats. And we all have those elements of our personality, but some performers can't, they get stuck in those habits and they can't separate from that. And they will just fall right into playing the role of the host or the role of the spokesperson, rather than just really being themselves.
I think that's so critical, that make sure when you're talking to that person, they're not trying to be the role of the spokesperson, they're being themselves. And that all goes back to what Patricia's suggestions were to the beginning, because I literally had this conversation today in my car on the way to this taping of this webinar. I said, we need to get some people to respond to this product, and we had to do a little casting on it. And I said, listen, don't be an actor, be a person. If you can't be an actor, do not apply. Right? Just be you. Just experience something and let people know how you feel. And you're right. Some people have difficulty with that. But by doing what you're saying, by recording yourself and putting, making that extra step to making sure you're making the right decision, by looking at that recording, you could tell.
Yeah, you can. And I think that, there's just some people that they can't get out of that. They don't see it for themselves. They don't know themselves inside and out enough and have the confidence and that comfort level to be able to just let it all hang out like that and to be themselves. They're just not, aware of it. So what I would also suggest is really look for people that have a diversity in their background of on-camera work. If it's somebody that has acted, that has hosted, that's done corporate media, that's done public speaking, somebody that has worn all these different kind of communications hats, to where they'll be able to know, okay, if I'm in front of a crowd and they call me in for a launch party, I know how to act in person with a big group. That's very different than talking one-on-one to a camera and being able to picture a person in your mind's eye and make that camera lens become a human being and really talk to them live in the moment and really, make that human connection happen through that hunk of metal. So I like to feel that what I've been able to bring to the party was such a diverse background of working in pretty much every form of media and probably every industry, that it's easy for me to kind of whip things up here and there, because I have a pretty deep well to pull from.
Right.
So I would look for things like that in my talent as well.
That's a great suggestion. I never thought of that, because you're right. If you're hiring somebody that just does one thing, guess what you're going to get? That person who just does one thing. The diversity is, what a great tip. We do that, and I don't even think about it as a tip. But that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And you just sparked another question that I wanted to get into, but I'm gonna hijack that and ask one before that, because I want to talk about other ways to utilize the talent. So before we go any further, I just want to ask the audience, and we'll do this in a poll: has your business ever used a spokesperson? But let's go to this question about, how do you, outside of using the product and outside of videotaping yourself, how do you prepare? What do you do to prepare for a presentation? Because if I'm a CEO or I'm a CMO and I'm paying I'm paying somebody good money to be the representation of my brand, I want to make sure that that person is just not showing up that day and ready to go and hasn't had this affinity with me and my brand and my product and all that. But what do you do to prepare when it comes to when we're getting ready to shoot? What have you done before to do that?
So I will definitely get as much information about the product and the company as I possibly can, and I'll look at the website. And I've been a reporter in my background, so I will do a little investigative reporting. I will research what are the products that are out there right now, what are some of the competitors and things like that. But what I'll also do is something that I do when I coach or train people, or I work with anybody. I'll say, like, who do you think your audience is, and who are you trying to reach, and who are you trying to talk to, and what is it that you really most want them to know about this? But then I'll go even a step further, like I will, for instance, if I'm writing a blog, or if I am writing my book, which I'm currently writing, I will ask other people, what do they think? So I will say to friends and family and people, hey, what do you like in a vacuum? What do you like in a fill in the blank, or this kind of makeup, or this kind of household product, or whatever it can be? And I used to not do that all the time, and when I started to do it, you get so much information. It's kind of like if I give a big speech. Before the speech, I'll try to get there early, and I'll mingle around with people and say, well, what do you hope to learn today, or what would you like to get out of this? So anytime I can get, like, not just locked into what I think and what I'm being told and what I'm reading, but I will literally say, what do you like, and what are your dislikes, and what are you looking for? And to anybody I can kind of get my hands on and say, hey, I'm working on this project. What do you think of a product like this? Or what do you think of this type of a service? And you'd be,
like the barista,
it's almost like,
whatever,
conducting
right?
my own little on-the-go mini focus groups. Right. Yeah, it's like mini focus groups. Is you could make that happen all throughout your day.
And what I hear is it helps you prepare by getting a pulse from the customer, right? Getting a pulse of what their needs are, because if you're not delivering what their needs are, it's potentially could just be worthless. Yeah.
And it also makes me feel solid when I'm out there talking to them, because I know there's a need. I know that we're giving value and we're being of service when I'm talking through that camera, that I'm not just trying to sell somebody something, right? And of course, we all know that old saying that everybody loves to buy, but nobody likes to be sold. So I never want to come across like I'm a pitch person, or that I'm a salesperson. I want to come through, like, I've been on QVC a million times, and their whole thing is you're talking to a friend over your back fence, and it's that same thing. It's like that, the way that I would talk to a friend or a family member if I loved a product and I was telling them they should buy it or use it. I want to make sure I get to that point before I get on set.
Awesome. And I think the other part of that is that what you're saying is it gives you more confidence that what you're communicating is really connecting, and having confidence about what you're saying is huge, right, Patricia?
It absolutely is, because if someone is recommending something to me, but I'm not getting the sense that they are, fully on board thinking this is the best thing since sliced bread,
right?
Well, why am I going to get involved? I mean, that kind of confidence is contagious. And that's what I want to be able to have the sturdiness of when I can speak that direct and be that kind of in command of how I'm making that connection with who I think needs this thing through the lens, because they need it, or it's going to help them. It's going to help their lives in some way.
I think as an interesting input for the audience is that Patricia has coined a term, Calmfidence. And that confidence gives you that calming feeling that I'm doing it. And I think it's such a beautiful word that you've created, and you created a whole brand around that. But talk about confidence and calming and why that's important to communicate that to the consumer.
Yeah. Well, I think that the reason that I put the two words together, calm and confident, to make Calmfidence. If you say it too fast, it sounds like confidence. So I always separate that for people. But because that's always what any of the people that I coach have been, that's the base of what they're all looking for. Whether it's a CEO who's going to be giving a big speech, or an expert that's going to be going on the Today Show, or someone who wants to be a host or an anchor or a reporter, is they all want to have this inner trust, which is an inner calm where you can think straight, you can be clear-minded, and you can make better choices, coupled with your confidence. It doesn't mean, it's low key or quiet or anything like that. It's an inner solid trust and ease and calm in yourself. That doesn't mean that you can't be excited and be powerful and be enthusiastic and passionate, but it's that inner feeling of, it's okay. I've got this.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, even if something comes out of left field, I know my stuff enough to where I'm going to handle it, and I'm going to figure it out, and everything's going to be okay. It's just that makes all the difference.
I love it, because that goes back to preparation, because we've all been in that situation where we studied for this final exam up one side, down the other, and you walked in the room like, I got this. And then we all know the feeling of, I didn't study and I don't got this. And you do not have confidence at that point. Right?
No, you don't. And two things can be also happening at once there. You can still get those butterflies and still get that physical reaction, because that doesn't always mean I'm doubting myself or this is horrible. Because it's that same feeling we get going off the high dive. It's still like it's showtime and you can get all that. But even through that, you can have that inner voice that says, it's still okay, because I'm still going to do a good job, just because I'm feeling this agitation might just mean I'm really excited because something exciting is about to happen. And even if you're still feeling like it isn't the best feeling in the world, if you have that inner trust, and through that preparation and through that self-talk and those other things, you can really muster that courage until that physical reaction subsides a little bit, and then get to the job at hand.
Right. And that manifests itself when you're being a representation for a brand or a company. It just gives that feeling of, hey, I'm talent, but I'm confident about what I'm doing because I've done my preparation. I've talked to my people. I've lived this product. And that to me is like the ultimate of when you get to set and you start to shoot and you spend a lot of money, that's where you want your talent, in that mindset.
Absolutely, because if it's on teleprompter and you're not somebody that has a ton of teleprompter experience, or you're trying to memorize it or whatever it may be, if you aren't completely bought into what those scripted words are, it's not going to feel genuine. It's not going to feel right. And you're probably not going to get through a read easy because it's not coming from an authentic place.
Yeah. And I've seen you in action where you're on script and all of a sudden you go off script, but you're still on point because you're so confident about what you know about it. And we, as the director or producer, looked like that's not what she read, but you know what? She actually said it better.
Don't you love when that happens?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let me ask you another question about, I was talking about how we leapfrog into a question. And the next question was that outside of just hiring a talent to represent your product or brand, what are the other ways that you have found that add more value to the business, to the brand, outside of just being on television? Because as you said before, getting buy-in from everybody from a business is really, really important. And what other ways could talent be used?
From my experience, I have been asked to come to launch events and do public speaking and mingle and get to know the people of everybody that's been involved in the project and the products, and recognize those people. And they feel, people have made it even seem like a big red carpet, kind of an Oscar type of moment where, not on a big stage, but even just in a conference room or in like a general gathering area at a company, and just made all those people that were involved feel really special. And, you want to be able to have somebody that doesn't have a big ego, that loves people, that loves meeting people and making other people feel special. Some of the companies, because I wear two hats, I'm talent, and then I also do training. They've had me come in and give speeches about my Calmfidence brand, or help with public speaking, or help some of the other people be on camera. I've connected through social media and stayed in touch with many of the people that I've worked with. So I think it's building relationships and wanting to pick somebody that can have those relationships happen and can really connect on that human level, and not just be, ooh, that's the spokesperson, that's the TV person.
Right.
You want to be in the mix with everybody, not separate from them.
I love that because I look at it and I go to an executive and say, Patricia is extremely experienced and she's well compensated for that. But look at other ways that you can utilize her through the brand that makes everybody involved. Because it goes back to a company. Let's say there's a company that we've been working with lately called Hoover, which is an iconic brand, and you've done the launch parties and you've done the infomercials and the direct response, but you see it happen in the room, right? The whole company engages and they're part of it, and
Yes.
and that's really kind of an intangible that people don't realize. You can actually make that happen when you're doing a big campaign by just going a little deeper.
Because it's so important to recognize everybody involved, no matter how big or small their role was.
Right.
You want them to be proud of it. Everybody wants to be proud of it on the air and feel like that they had a part of something that is successful. And that can only lead to better things, within the company itself, yep. I would think.
Yep. I've seen it. I've seen it happen, and I've seen it manifest through people that you have worked with at that company, at a launch party, and then an offshoot conversation of, oh, that was the best thing for everybody. You didn't know that conversation was happening, but they feel it. They feel it. And that goes back to look at your talent as being somebody who's all in.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And for me, I pride myself on, if I'm going to do something, I'm all in.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. So I have a question that I want to ask from the audience, but I have one more question, Patricia. What is it most that you enjoy about what you do? What words of wisdom can you give about what you enjoy, what you do, that might give somebody who's looking for a potential spokesperson for their brand or their company that would give them the right person?
That I love most is the human connection. I can work on set for 12 to 18 hours and sometimes longer if it takes that, because it doesn't deplete me. It energizes me. I thrive off of communicating and making connection with people. And ever since I was a young girl, even though it scared the heck out of me for a very long time until I overcame it, which is in part of my book, the thrill of knowing that you're talking to a sea of people, whether it's through a lens or in front of you, and feeling that energy of making that type of connection where everyone is kind of having the same experience and being able to either, again, inspire them in some way, educate them in some way, entertain them, or simply, give them the tools that is going to help them make some kind of progress, in their life, whether it's to feel better about themselves, feel better about, I don't know, beauty, money,
they use.
easier things being done at the home. Right.
Yeah.
I just I just love it. And that's been the hardest part of this whole pandemic for me is I miss people desperately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you may miss them, but tens of million people see you all the time on TV. So they don't miss you because they get to see you all the time. And because
I appreciate
some
that.
of the work that we've done together has been the most successful work we've done. So,
Oh,
so there's a question,
I'm so glad to hear
and I get
that.
this question a lot, but somebody is on the webinars asking this question about how do you go about finding a spokesperson? That's an interesting question. People were asked that a lot as a business. From your perspective, what's the best way to go about finding a spokesperson?
Well, I would go absolutely to people that have the experience in finding talent and know their talent well. Whether it is, a production company that uses talent for many years, that has great relationships with those talent, or a casting group or casting director that really knows their talent well, that has a great reputation for it. I certainly wouldn't go and hire a friend's daughter because wants to be a model or or something like that, and you think she's got a good personality, because just the depth of what you need just is unfortunately not going to be there. Right. So I would say go to the professionals that know talent, that remember talent, that know talent's strong points, that keep in touch with their talent and keep up to date with what they're doing. Yep. And again, usually that is going to be a production company that has great relationships with people that they've worked with, whether it's talent or casting folks, or agents or anything like that. But I would absolutely go to a professional source rather than an unprofessional source.
That's absolutely phenomenal advice, because I think that, it gets to the point where I've dealt with this, where a client, the decision maker, falls in love with a certain person, and that's great, but it's you're looking through the wrong lenses. Just because that's who you like doesn't mean that's essentially going to communicate what you're trying to do to your audience.
Right.
Yeah. Little self-awareness, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I just think that you want to always keep the end user in mind. Who is the person that's really going to resonate with the viewer, and who's the viewer going to see themselves in?
So I think that is kind of an encapsulation in one little sentence about what we've talked about, is when you're picking a talent, get somebody who wants to be part of this, who understands who the consumer is, done their homework, and is really trying to connect way ahead before the cameras are even on, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, I want to thank you very much. I know it's late for you on the East Coast, but Patricia, I just want to thank you so much for being part of the webinar. I think there's so much value in what you have to say. And I would say a lot of what Patricia has said may sound like common sense, but until you hear it from somebody who's gone through it, don't take it. Listen to the depth of what she said. It's common sense, but there's deeper meaning to it all. So I'd say listen to what Patricia has said a couple of times, because you'll see there's a common thread through her answers to a lot of the questions that may be different, but there's a common thread, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And I would like to add one last thing, that I absolutely love Script to Screen. I've always loved working with you guys. And the reason is not only because you're just very nice people, but I've always been so proud at the level of professionalism and the level of how things look on the air. You make things look like they could be on the Today Show or the Olympics, or, you fill in the blank of the best broadcast show that's out there. And as a talent that is really always in tune to knowing how my image and likeness comes across, that's super important. Production value, production quality, that not only reflects on me as the talent, but you better believe it reflects on the quality and the optics of whatever that product or brand is. And I've seen some cheesy things out in the world, and I would not want to be a part of them. And I'm always proud to be part of anything that airs that Script to Screen has done that I've been involved in. And I can say that with total conviction.
Thank you, Patricia. That's very nice and much appreciated, and vice versa. How would somebody get a hold of you if they have some questions about maybe talent or just about your confidence information? How would somebody go about getting a hold of you?
Sure. So my website is just patriciastark.com, or you could also go to calmfidence.com, which leads you there too. And my email is patricia@patriciastark.com. So pretty easy to remember.
Awesome. And I would say for people that are looking for first class, you've stop right here. Stop right here.
Wow. Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same.
I really appreciate the information you've given us. And I just want to reiterate, there's people that can talk about it, and there's people who can talk about it and actually do it. And Patricia has done it extremely successfully for many, many years. And I can just say the information she just dropped on everybody is worth a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of frustration that you can get around just by listening to somebody who's done it and not just talked it. So thank you so much.
Well, I really hope it helps. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to having you join us on our next webinar series. And again, thank you again, Patricia, and hope everybody got a lot of value out of this.